I'm going to say A.J. Brown because I think he's got the ability to just take over a game. But if the Eagles run into a team with a top flight corner who's going to somewhat neutralize Brown, you've got Devontae Smith on the other side. I'm going to say A.J. Brown, but you can tell that I'm hedging on this and I'm hemming and hawing, KJ. I don't know what direction you go. I love Terry McLaurin, but the question is who's going to, can you count on Sam Howell to get him the ball? I'm going to say A.J. Brown after all that back and forth.
Here's why I'm going to say CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb is going to see the volume, right? The benefit in Philly is Jalen Hurts has his legs. He also has Devonta Smith. Even if you remember in the playoffs, A.J. Brown's usage wasn't super heavy, and they were still successful. I couldn't say that about the Cowboys. If there's no CeeDee Lamb in the mix, there's really no offensive passing game there's no offensive passing game threat for the Cowboys. So if you said to me, who do I think has the most impact and that will make them the best receiver in the NFC East, I would have to say it's CeeDee Lamb. If I had to say, okay, I need a go-to receiver at any moment, like in a critical moment, I would have to choose A.J. Brown. I just think that the Eagles will have less critical moments and CeeDee Lamb will find himself in more volume moments. So CeeDee Lamb is going to be a guy that's going to probably get close to maybe 105 in receptions, maybe 110. He might be one of the top 3 receivers, but A.J. Brown may have more touchdowns and 25 less receptions than CeeDee Lamb. So in terms of if we're talking about like superlatives of high school and, like the cotton candy always tastes better than the Brussels sprouts, then it's going to be CeeDee Lamb. But I get where you're hedging your bet, right? Like clearly A.J. Brown is the alpha male receiver in one of them in the league. But in terms of what's going to happen in the NFC East, it's going to be CeeDee Lamb that's going to have a lot of these gaudy numbers.
Yeah, and I just think Hurts is also primed, too, for a bigger year with his arm than maybe some people expect. Favorite player prop in the NFC East this year? I have one, and again, you guys can all laugh at me if you want. You can. Dak Prescott has said he's going to throw fewer interceptions this year. Now, we can argue about how many fewer those may be, but Dak under 13.5 interceptions, I'm on that. I do. I think Dak is going to clean things up. Does that make the Cowboys a Super Bowl contender? No. But I think it makes the Cowboys a little bit better, and I think it makes Dak hit that number. He's put it out there. Look, whether you believe Dak Prescott, again, is a Super Bowl caliber quarterback or not, that's a different conversation for a different day. I believe that Dak Prescott knows he's got to turn the ball over less and is going to go out of his way to turn the ball over less. So Dak under 13.5 interceptions, I think, might be my favorite player prop in the NFC East this year.
Ooh, interesting. But over 17 games, you're saying that Dak isn't going to throw 2 in any of them, most likely, and bypass throwing even 1 in several of them. So that's why I said that's tight teeth. Now, my favorite player prop in the NFC East is A.J. Brown, 7.5 touchdowns. I like the over. Just because once you start getting into close range, and I think teams now know to prepare for the Jalen Hurts run, it won't be surprising to see probably a back pylon throw to A.J. Brown where his size and his hands will just dominate the defender that he just won't have a chance. So I like the prop of A.J. Brown over 7.5, and it's plus money to go over that. So I think it's like plus 140. So I like A.J. Brown over 7.5 touchdowns. I guess that's the superlative of like what will they supersede or succeed in is I guess that's the theme that's going there. Yeah, I think I put him down for more than 7.5 touchdowns.
We brought up the schedule. Where is the speed bump? Who's the challenger in the SEC East? Is it basically Tennessee or nobody, John?
Yeah, I mean, the East is a very mixed bag. I don't think Billy Napier's got as much going down there in Florida right now as some of their fan base would like. Look, Tennessee's going to be a good team, but I don't really think that, in all honesty, with some of the losses that Tennessee had, I don't look at them as a real foe. I mean, I don't think that there is going to be a real opposition to what Georgia is in the East. And, again, Tennessee is a good program and they're on the rise, but I just don't think, if you saw that game last year where Tennessee was a much better team than they were, this year, and they got handled by Georgia. They got completely handled in that game. So, again, obviously things can be tricky going up to Knoxville, but I just don't see that there is any real speed bump for this team in the East.
John, you mentioned we're talking about here about the alignment and the different conferences making all these different moves. Do you feel like the SEC needs to go to a divisionless setup where the West is heavy, right? You got to admit Georgia carries the flag for the East, and that's
right.
So you're always going to say they're always going to be the East, but now you have Texas coming in, Oklahoma coming in. Do you now say, hey, we want to be able to play Texas as a regular season game, or would you rather see you still play the Vanderbilts and the Georgias and the Tennessees and just a couple of sprinkles out in the West?
Well, they're going to go for 2024 to divisionless conference. So that is going to happen starting next year. But after that, the plans are still up in the air about what they want to do, whether they, go to 9 conference games or what have you. That's been another argument that has been pretty consistent. That was a big topic of discussion at SEC Media Days. Look, I like the divisions myself. Like, I don't like what the ACC is doing per se in eliminating divisions. I like divisions. I like having that separation. That's just maybe the old head in me, but I like the divisions, and not just because Georgia's, dominating the East. Again, Georgia's going to dominate in the SEC either way, but I like the divisional format. I like the divisional setup, but they are going to go next year for at least 1 year, and then we'll see what happens in the future. But I definitely think that 9 conference games is coming. I think that the divisionless thing is going to happen. I don't think it's going to be just for 1 year next year. I think that this is all moving forward to getting as many of the top teams, in the mix as they can. And obviously as the playoff expands, trying to get as many teams into the, 12-team playoff as possible.